Experts by experience. Real conversations, real people, real stories.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of our Experts by Experience podcast. Today, we're joined by Katie, Executive Director of Finding Rhythms, and Tom, a producer on the Finding Rhythms projects. Finding Rhythms, what do? They deliver collaborative music-making courses for those at risk of offending in a range of custodial and community settings. And I can see that you guys have been busy because on your website it says you've got over 150 projects working across 30 prisons in the UK. You've produced 100 albums of original music available on Bandcamp and Spotify for anyone listening. And you've engaged over 1,000 participants, empowering over 450 to gain a recognised qualification, which is huge. So Katie and Tom, lovely to meet you and lovely to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having us.
So for those who haven't heard of Finding Rhythms before, can you tell us a little bit about the organisation and specifically why music is at the heart of the approach?
Yeah. So we very specifically use music as a catalyst to empower people to improve their lives. And I guess I'll start with sort of how we were founded. We were founded by a musician who found themselves in a prison delivering a project, kind of circumstantially, and I guess saw firsthand kind of how powerful music can be in that space and how it has, a really profound effect on people, particularly when they're going through difficult times. And so from that experience, Robin Harris was inspired to start putting music projects together and did a few different projects, particularly around Wormwood Scrubs. And then sort of after a few years of doing projects was inspired to formally kind of start the charity. So that was in 2013. So we've been really formed, I guess, around the prison environment and kind of coming up with a delivery model that works within that quite complicated space and gets the most out of the people that are participating in those projects. And I think why music is because, I think more than many other things, music has a real sort of universal language to it. So people, almost everybody is interested in music and can be inspired by music. And I think if you particularly have an interest in music, it's probably, your biggest love, your biggest passion. So it's about kind of tapping into that passion and using that in a constructive and positive way, which, people going through difficult circumstances don't get that much positivity and don't get those kinds of opportunities. So that's really kind of at the heart of why we do what we do.
That leads us on quite nicely to thinking about, so we're thinking about music as the catalyst. Can you share with people that are listening and myself, where have you seen music truly transform someone's life?
I guess we hear it happening in all sorts of ways. And that can be things like, being sort of distracted from the sort of negative past that people have experiences and helping them process those experiences. And to give an example, we were doing a project in Stamford Hill prison, and we had a guy there who had a long sentence, and through his sentence had really worked through a lot of issues around addiction and had got himself to the point of clean by the end of his sentence, and then was released sort of midway through the project. And he wrote to us afterwards saying that actually when he got released, he was finding it really challenging. That we all know it's a big transition to make, and it's very, very tricky. And he was kind of reflecting on the time that he'd had making the music with us, and he basically told us that actually he was kind of really at risk of relapsing, and we had got in touch with him to say, oh, we've put the album online, it's all finished now, if you can hear it. And he basically said, that reminded me of everything that I'd worked at, everything that I'd achieved through my sentence and through that project, and I don't want to risk that. Like, the music was that reminder of what he wants out of life. And I think that's sort of just one example of the types of things we hear, and that's how powerful music can be. It's more than it's sort of speaking to the essence of who people are.
Wow, gosh. And for him, sorry, Tom, for him to come to that in that transitional moment as well, and that almost be like the safe thought or the safe experience, the safe place, is such magic.
And that's it. Yeah, if people don't sort of, people can sort of talk down the importance of music, but we all know that experience of listening to a track over and over again and returning to that thought process and that emotion, and how powerful that can be. It's a real thing.
I just thought I would interject and say, it's a universal language. It's a really universal vessel for people to sort of tap into really how they feel, and speak about the things that they wouldn't otherwise be able to open up about, I'd say. Even, for example, in the prisons, when we're working with groups of individuals, say 8 people, a lot of them wouldn't have ever spoken to each other, or some of them wouldn't have respect for each other for one reason or another. And then getting in that creative space where you have to sort of open up to your vulnerabilities, everyone starts to communicate a lot better together, and friendships are made. And I think, if you're doing quite a long stint, little things like that make a big difference to how your confidence is inside, and then also on the outside, because we do a one-to-one program, a private in our private studio, working with people that have been either in prison or sort of likely to be coerced into the wrong thing. I've had people that have come in with absolutely no understanding of their talents, and then by the end of it, they're now getting bookings as DJs, or they're performing for the first time. And I think just those little things that make you value yourself, that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And like the bookings and the people, that external recognition of your talent, at the same time that you're having that like internal recognition, sounds so powerful.
That's it. Yeah, we work with some clinical psychologists as well, and they've kind of recognized how it can have this rewriting of narratives for people. So like the example Tom says, if you're suddenly being recognized for your talents in a time where you really didn't think you had any, or you've forgotten you had any, or whatever, that has such an inspiring effect to then be able to, okay, well, maybe I now have talents, then what else can I do with them? It can set you off on a path. And I guess that's why we use that term of music as a catalyst, because it can take you in many directions. It can take you to performing live and taking your music further, but also inspiring you to go on into other directions if that's your ambition as well.
Yeah, I have so many questions because I'd be interested as well to hear about, like, where do people take this course? What happens after? What do you often see happen after people interact with you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been going since 2013, and I guess the sort of majority of our charitable work has been sort of short interventions where we deliver like a 6-week project in a prison, and we're not always that we're not necessarily made aware, to be honest, of what happens afterwards. It's very difficult to learn, you interacted with somebody over here, what were they doing a year later? It's quite difficult to extract that information. But what we have now is a program kind of, partly because of that sort of challenge. We have a program that Tom's referenced there, Making Waves, where we are working with those people for that period of time, and we do a kind of initial 10 weeks of music sessions. But then we have an alumni program where people can continue to come to us, and we do live performances and monthly kind of industry sessions as well. And that's enabled us to really have a longer term relationship with people, and now understand, the what happens next. So we've been doing that program for around 18 months now. And I guess what we're seeing is that, when people come to us, and Tom can speak to this more than me, but people are coming, they may have just come out of prison. We have people that, have in very recent times been released. And so they're in a situation where they're putting the building blocks of their lives together. We're supporting people even understanding how to use their Oyster card and, their smartphone and things like that, where, those little things of life have kind of, been taken away from them. So they're really having to build things back up from the ground up. And so then, by the end of the program, what we have done, we're providing music and we're providing that space for creative expression, but really we're providing, a structure, a kind of format, a place that people can come every week. They've got some consistency in a context of having very little fixed consistency in their lives. So, it can just be that kind of bedrock, that just foundational step. But then, by the end of it, we've got a couple of guys actually that at the very beginning of the program, 18 months ago, is when we first worked with them, but they still come back to do the performances and the sessions that we do. And they're in employment, and they're in, like, for example, construction work, but music is that thing they're going to want to keep for the rest of their lives, kind of thing. They still want to have that music practice, but they know that in the short term they need some money, they need to be able to support themselves. Music isn't necessarily a quick fix.
I feel like once that 10 weeks was over, they've only just started. That's got the ball rolling. And now it takes a little while for it to absorb. And by that point they understand it more, they appreciate it more, and they want to keep coming back. And it's really nice to be able to offer the opportunity for them to come back. Definitely.
When you guys are talking about this, I am thinking about the kind of way in which you deliver, and it sounds non-clinical, right? It sounds trauma-informed, but it sounds non-clinical. So why is that approach so important? Do you align with that particular approach?
Yeah, I would say it's interesting because I think all these terms, in a way, when you're a small organisation, particularly an arts-focused organisation, that's sort of how you work, and those terms are sort of made for the systems that aren't working in that way. So we've sort of learned about ourselves that, we are trauma-informed because we treat people with respect, and there are these 7 principles, and we just live and breathe that. And again, like person-centered, we are, because we are, listening to the person and sort of responding to the things that they want to do. And the reason that is so important is because, these systems, criminal justice being one, but, education and healthcare being others, not everybody is welcomed by those systems, and not everybody is supported through them in an equal way. And so, particularly people in the criminal justice system, that they've had, in many cases, negative experiences of those environments. So when you look at, the education offers within prisons, not everybody is going to be that inspired to take the things on because they had a terrible time at school, and it's just further traumatizing to somebody that really didn't get on in the school system. And so something like music and broadly other arts as well, it speaks to the person, and it's not, I can't think of anybody that's ever said music is traumatizing. It'd be a very unusual situation. And so, like we've said, we're providing something that people genuinely are interested in, genuinely passionate about, and makes them feel more of a person than a life without music. So, it means that people can access what is actually an education offer. We are teaching, we are, in a sense, people are learning, acquiring skills, but they're doing it in a way that it speaks to them and doesn't alienate them further than other types of activities do.
There's no judgment. This is the thing. Like, I feel like in the traditional, the traditional routes, it feels a bit more administered on them. Whereas with the music, they have the opportunity to take, and they can lead the way with it. So there's a lot more control, I feel. So that's probably why it's welcome with open arms.
Mm. Yeah, I love that idea of possibility as well. It's like with anything creative, isn't it? Like it allows for more possibility. You sit someone down in a talking therapy session, they might not have the language, but you ask someone to create a beat, or you ask someone to, make a scene, if we're talking about like more like drama modes, and they can use their body to do it. So they don't need the language. You guys have told us about Making Waves, so your community project. Would you be able to walk us through a typical project from that first session to kind of what happens at the end? And just so anyone who's currently in prison listening to this, they can understand what they would experience along the way.
Yeah, sure. So the program is 10 sessions long, sort of booked in. An hour and a half slot weekly, which is like an anchor. You've got a regular time that you come back to and something to work towards. And basically the first session would just be trying to get an idea of the individual's sort of interest in music. We'll be sharing musical tastes and just sort of trying to discover what they want to do, whether it's produce using one of our MacBooks, or I have plenty of beats always that I can play, just to sort of get the music started. But yeah, the first session would be sort of setting 3 goals for the 10 weeks, what they'd like to get out of it. And that could be producing a beat for the first time, or it could be working towards a performance, or trying to get a DJ set by the end of it, or even have like 8 songs. And a lot of the time they do come out with sort of 8 to 10 songs that by the end of the course they will be able to share using our platform on Spotify, or take and do whatever they want with. Also along the way, we work on the King's Trust level 3 qualification in personal development and employability, which is just another thing to go on the CV, and it also helps them plan towards a goal that they want to achieve over a realistic timescale. But I feel like after the first session, it all just absolutely flies by. It's just making music, and we just get stuck in, and the time just whizzes. But yeah, that's essentially it. But essentially, I'm there to help them understand anything that they want to learn about, whether it's the mixing, the engineering, the production, the songwriting. It's just a place to find out more and to put it into practice with the facilities around them.
It sounds so full of play as well, like the opportunity to like play and is this right for me? Does this work?
Yeah, there's been people that have suddenly been like, oh, I want to play this with a live guitar piece, and we can work to whatever the kind of musical aspirations are. Yeah, as Tom says, it's really about using that time, how they want to. And then participants also have an opportunity to get mentoring through that as well. And that's delivered by Trailblazers. We pair up with those for the mentors. And then we do these quarterly live performance events. So basically, as soon as someone feels ready to perform some of their tracks, they can come and do that at one of our live shows. And then, we kind of thinking about what else people might want to learn and understand about either the music sector or kind of, employment opportunities that are more broadly open to them beyond music. So we've started to put together these kind of monthly group sessions where we get in like an expert speaker and a kind of session, and they've been really great. We've had people like doing like making radio and working on kind of live performance skills and things like that, where we can bring in kind of other expertise and expose people to ideas.
And my last question is to anyone listening that wants to get involved, what are the possibilities for that? How can they do that?
Oh, I mean, all sorts. So yeah, drop us a line. Our info at email is regularly monitored, so you'll get through to us. But we deliver a lot of projects, and there's always room for more Toms. So if you've got like amazing music skills, amazing people skills, we're always interested in hearing from you. And yeah, there'll be other ways to get involved as well. But yeah, drop us an email and we can go from there. You can self-refer into Making Waves. So if you are in the community and you can get yourselves to Peckham where we deliver, then and you're interested in doing making music, then yeah, you can self-refer. And then also, people working in the criminal justice system can also refer on behalf of someone.
If you have any questions for anyone that works at Finding Rhythms, or if you're interested and want to get involved yourself in any of the projects or as another Tom, please do definitely reach out. Unfortunately, guys, that's everything that we have time for today, but thank you so much for coming and sharing about the amazing work that you're doing.
Thanks. Thank you for having us.
Experts by Experience is brought to you by Catch22. For more episodes, visit www.catch-22.org.uk.